Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed its grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, through more than self their country love and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed His grace on me, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. And crown thy good, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Happy Word!
Oh, those voices are so beautiful. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity of Music City, and today is Independence Day, the 4th of July, so it's so good to see you. And let's welcome Deb Moore to the All right, let's sing our first song, Ryan.
All right, everybody, stand up and stand in your truth as you are able.
Channeling can't even. Thank you.
I'm not gonna give in to this world's misery. I've learned a lesson that always sets me free. In any situation, the best thing I can do is to know who I am and let that light shine through. What we gonna do? I'm gonna stand in my truth. Stand in my truth. I'm gonna stand in my truth and let my troubles go. I'm gonna stand in my truth. Stand in my truth. I'm gonna whisper a prayer and claim my power to make it so. Make it so. I will not get caught up in other people's stuff. Keeping my focus for me is quite enough. When I'm feeling cornered, I get still and breathe and remember who I am and all that I believe. What we gonna do? I'm gonna stand in my truth. Stand in my truth. I'm gonna stand in my truth and let my troubles go. I'm gonna stand in my truth. Stand in my truth. I'm gonna whisper a prayer and claim my power to make it so. Make it all right, so. This is yours. I'm gonna stand in my truth. I'm gonna stand in my truth. I'm gonna stand in my truth and let my troubles go. I'm gonna stand in my truth. Stand in my truth. I'm gonna whisper a prayer, claim my power to make it so. Make it so. I'm gonna whisper a prayer, claim my power to make it so. Make it so. I'm gonna whisper a prayer to claim my power to make it so. Make it so. Yeah, make it so.
Hey, Tom, I asked for a favor. I left my bacon for announcements on the sheet, on the chair there. Could you get that for me? I am so sorry, but then you needed the exercise. Okay, a few announcements this morning. Today is the 4th of July. Yes, Independence Day. And I just wanted to let you know that our email address is unityofmusiccity@gmail.com. Our phone number remains the same. So if you have the church number before, you still have it. Our new mailing address, however, is different. It's 4636 Lebanon Pike, number 208, Hermitage 37076. The prayer chaplains are always available. We're so blessed to have chaplains. You know, somebody that we know that we can reach out to.
Oops, I accidentally deleted that one.
And they're always holding that space for us. So if you have a concern that you'd like to share with the chaplains, please, you can email them with your request at uofncprayerrequests@gmail.com. There is also a prayer box at the back of the room to drop off your prayer concerns. If you're here today, any and all prayer requests are welcome. The welcome team is looking for a ministry lead, as well as some greeters. It's nothing for us to just talk to each other as we come through the door, and so if somebody would just want to think, I can do that. If you would like to be the ministry lead, we're looking for a person that's willing to lead that ministry, and also some greeters. So, we greet each other anyway, so you might as well just kind of be a fixture every Sunday morning if you can. We need a few. Also, A Course in Miracles is still going on. Every Sunday morning from 9:30 to 11, the Course in Miracles is being conducted. So look for in the Happenings email that comes out on every Tuesday for the Zoom information. All right? Okay, let's sing again.
All right. Let's stand as you are able and ask God to use us however it can. Use me, oh God, I stand for you. And here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think that God was the Son, God is the Son, but God's so much more than the earth or the stars or all of creation. God is Creator, all in use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Command my hands, command my hands. What must I do? Command my life. It's here for you. God is the love that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new. And God needs us to shine its light as He, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you. And here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Come on and show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Yes.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's sacred reading and our affirmation is, I believe in the unity of all creation, so I can help where I can. Please say this with me.
I believe in the unity of all creation, so I help where I can.
We increase our love when we invest in ourselves. Parents love their children for many reasons. But one of those reasons is because of so much time and energy and money has been invested in them. The more we work in our yard, weed flower beds, plant roses, spread mulch, the more we love our yard. Not just because it's prettier, because there is a little bit of us in there now. Even that special project at work can become something we actually love. Just a little. After we've poured hours of energy, thought, and skill into it. On those days when you just don't love your spouse or your friend or your sibling or whomever, try investing in them. Help them in some way. Show up for them. Forgive them. The investment of yourself is an act of love, and love always grows when given the chance. The more we help, the more we feel connected. The more we help, the more we feel the unity of all creation. I believe in the unity of all creation, so I can help where I can.
Thank you, Tom. I invite everyone to just close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Or maybe just stare at a spot on the floor. Whatever it is that helps you to shut down the busyness of your mind, to get out of your own way, and to spend just a moment being with God, being in God, being as God. And as you sit in that stillness, I ask that you bring to mind that one person in your life right now who is in need, who feels in need. It may be a financial need. It may be an emotional need. It may just be a need of increased self-esteem, a need to believe in themselves. Whatever person came to your mind when I said that, even if you immediately thought of a person that you don't think of as being in need, hold that person now in your spirit. Because all of us need each other. All of us need to remember that we are God's beloved children. All of us need a reminder that we belong, that we have purpose, we have a reason. And for just a moment in the silence, shower that person with love. Send that person every good thought you can possibly imagine about them. Brag on them. Love on them. Cocoon them in the spiritual energy of divine love. Let's do that for each other in the silence. In the silence. As you were showering love on another, I was showering it on you. Every single one of you. I was remembering that you are divine and you are beloved and you belong and you are here to do powerful work. And I was in awe of you. You're amazing. You are every bit as amazing as the most amazing person you admire. Never forget that. And if you do, someone around you will remind you. Maybe it will be me.
I am in God. God is in me. My life is God expressing. I am in God. God is in me. All that I am flows to and from God.
Thank you all. I have to tell you that I don't plan out my meditations. I let that be the one thing that just kind of comes from wherever it comes from, and I got to myself.
All right. That was a good one.
I got to myself. Thank you. Won't he do it? That's what Nikki would say. Woo, I don't plan out my meditations, but I do plan out my talks. And I usually spend quite a few hours with stew time and simmer time and then writing time and prayer time and thought time and how does this feel time and let me practice it a little bit. But I'll tell you what, a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I looked at the calendar to see when I was going to be speaking again, and I saw that it was going to be the 4th of July, and I thought, well, that's going to be interesting. And then I forgot about it. And a couple of days after that, I knew what I was going to talk about. And I love it when that happens. I love when I don't come up with what is going to be talked about, when I let it come to me, and it gets delivered, and I'm just great. I knew what I was going to talk about. Well, I was still 3 weeks out. I didn't have to worry about it. So about last Sunday, after listening to Vic talk, I thought to myself, okay, you better plan your talk for next week. You might want to start working on that. So Monday morning I woke up and I thought you might want to write your talk today. And I have another job. So I am teaching some online classes for the summer. So I got really busy. They needed some attention. I got busy with that. And then Tuesday morning I woke up and I said, you might want to plan your talk. And then the lawn really needed to be mowed. And I knew that rain was coming in. And then by the time I should weed that flower bed and all of these things. And then Wednesday I woke up and I said, you really should plan that talk. And then all of a sudden, the way that Nikki and I have been talking about rearranging the furniture in the bedroom for the last 3 months had to be done that day. And before I even was out of my pajamas, the bed was cockeyed across the room. And later that afternoon, I finally woke up a little bit and said, what are you doing? Why are you first subconsciously and now consciously stopping yourself from doing this? What is it? And I realized I have a little, you probably know this trick too, but when you finally name it and ask the question and look yourself in the mirror, you get all kinds of answers. And I realized that I was a little hesitant because what I had been given to talk about might be a little touchy. And I wasn't worried about pissing anybody off because I do that so often. It's kind of a hobby now. So I'm not too worried about that. But what I was really concerned about was making sure that the purity of what I had received was communicated in a way that could be received yet again in that pure way. So here's what I'm talking about. How is it possible for us to be a believer in unity, a believer in the oneness of all creation, one with every human being on this planet, and be patriotic? How is it possible for us to mesh those two things? Hang with me. Just hang with me. If you felt yourself pushing back at all on that, breathe and relax. I think we're going to be okay if we walk together here. All right? Patriotism kind of inherently sets up a sense of us and them. Patriotism, patriotic days are days when we say, we are wonderful. You, not so much. But we are wonderful. Perfect example of this is coming up later this month. The Olympics starts on July 23rd. July 23rd. I love the Olympics. And I love, even the chant, USA, USA. Well, my favorite part of the Olympics are when you find that one little guy from Chad who's like the only athlete from his country who's there, right? The Jamaican bobsled team, whatever. They won't be there this summer Olympics. Maybe they will. They might have gotten confused. But Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, we don't know. It's all the same. It's all the same. I love finding that one athlete and that man rooting for that person. That becomes, and that's part of it. I've heard stories from the athletes that live in Unity. I think they call it Unity Village. Not Unity Village. It's Olympic Village. See, I'm thinking of Unity Village in Kansas City. The athletes that live in Olympic Village together always have these great stories of connection and unity and the people they met and what a wonderful experience it was for them, because we see the gold medal winners on the stands, but there's thousands and thousands of athletes whose faces and names we will never see, who are there joining together in the spirit of sport. When I was 16, about 16, I know we lived in Denver, so I was probably 16. I remember going to a 4th of July celebration outside on this kind of grassy lawn amphitheater place, and there was a concert, and there were fireworks, and God bless the USA, and everybody, it was all just amazing and fantastic. And I remember saying as a 16-year-old, 4th of July is my favorite holiday. It's my favorite. But I was young. And I had very little experience in the world. The older I get, the more I realize how limited my experience still is, even after I've had a few of them. There are so many American experiences. There are so many different American experiences. And sometimes we think that we know what it means to be an American, what that experience is, what it feels like, what we value. But there are so many American experiences. And if you think that all of those experiences lead easily down the path toward patriotism, then allow me to disabuse you of that notion. Let me suggest that patriotism, which we can define as an expressed love of country, or a combination of love and pride, right? It's love and pride married together, that is more easily experienced for some than for others. And if we are unity, we care about others and their experience. I'll give you some examples. If you are white, if you are white, then I would assert that you have likely had fewer times in your life when patriotism was a challenge. It's easier for a white person to be patriotic. And if you think to yourself, well, it shouldn't be that way, then I invite you to broaden your experience a little bit. Maybe take a weekender and go down to Montgomery and visit the National Center for Peace and Justice, otherwise known as the National Lynching Memorial. And remember that sometimes some folks who love their country are stretching a long way to do so. If you are straight, if you are heterosexual, I would assert that you've likely had fewer times in your life when patriotism was a challenge. Because the rights that you have taken for granted have felt like God-given, inborn, inherent rights all of your life. A significant portion of the population has fought for and still fights for. If you are male, I would assert that you have likely had fewer times in your life when patriotism was a challenge. You've been able to vote longer than 101 years. You've been able to own property since the very beginning of this nation's formation. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Absolutely nothing wrong with any of that. You just have patriotism privilege. Right? You have patriotism privilege. It's easy for you. And other folks stretch a little bit further. I'm going to go one step further. If you are a baby boomer, then you are likely more prone toward patriotism than some younger folks. The baby boomers were defined by that post-World War II era of patriotism and prosperity. We had done this noble thing. We emptied those concentration camps. We defeated the Germans. We did this grand and noble thing in the world. That's something to be proud of. I remember the days we're starting to kind of lose the World War II generation. Very few left who actually fought in that war. But I remember the days I worked in the hotel business back in the 80s, back when there were a lot of World War II veterans still around. And big business in the summertime was World War II reunion conventions. And you've never met a more patriotic group of people because their experience led them there. What they had seen and what they had done and the work they had gone to do. Yes. It led them there. And let me just say that if you are all of these, if you are a white, heterosexual, male baby boomer, I'm going to go cash in my 401k and shove all that money across the table and bet it on you being patriotic. And that's what there you go. And that's what your experience led you to. Of course, it's easy. It's an easy thing to do for you to be patriotic. And in fact, if you never think about anyone else's experience, you might even start to question, how could someone not be patriotic? Whatever your level of patriotism is today on this 4th of July, I invite you to consider that some have had a different experience. And their ability to readily express unbridled love for their country might not be the same as your ability to do so. And let me go one step further. Despite popular opinion, if you don't like it, then leave is not a patriotic statement. If you don't like it, then stay. Help us make it better. Tell us how we can improve. How have we failed you? Because if the American idea of freedom has failed anybody, then it's failed all of us on some level. As people who believe in unity, I believe that we are called to care for others and their experience. And one of the best examples of this in Scripture is when Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan. So this is found in Luke chapter 10, and if you recall the story, it goes a little something like this. So this lawyer, you know, right off the bat, we're going somewhere. That's what it says, this lawyer. And you know how lawyers are. This lawyer comes up to ask Jesus some questions. And you know how anybody, there's no lawyers in here. Becky Duffield, if you're watching, you can reply. If you've ever known a lawyer, then you know that lawyers ask questions in a different way than normal people ask questions. Normal people ask questions because they don't know and they need an answer. Lawyers ask questions because they want to trap you in your own answer. So this lawyer comes to Jesus and asks him, how do I get into heaven? And Jesus says, because Jesus is Jesus and he knows and he's smart and he probably went, lawyer. And Jesus says to him, well, what's written? And how do you interpret it? You tell me. And the lawyer says, now this is really interesting because this is one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible, and everybody thinks Jesus said it, and Jesus didn't say it, a lawyer said it. The lawyer said, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's what I read. And so Jesus says, that's good, go do that. Yeah, go do that. But the lawyer, who probably was looking for a loophole, lawyers can never just ask one question, right? There's got to be a follow-up. And so the follow-up was, okay, so who is my neighbor? And then Jesus tells this story. This is from Luke. I'm reading from the NIV. Luke chapter 10, verses 30 through 37-ish. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest, now insert side note, all of these people are Jewish. All right? A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. The man was Jewish. A priest, the priest was Jewish. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. He was probably late for a board meeting, or he didn't want to get his robes dirty, or something very pressing. Something very important was happening. And he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite. Now a Levite is just a different kind of Jew. All right? They descend from Levi. So too, it's like saying a Baptist and a Church of Christ person. Right? Church of Christian, something. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. Got business to attend to, too busy. But a Samaritan, someone different, someone that we would look at and say, you ain't from around here. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii, money, and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. I love that. He didn't say, here's $25. When that runs out, he's on his own. He said, whatever your expense is, when I come back, I'll take care of it. And Jesus said, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? And the expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Even the law couldn't find a footnote to that, a loophole to that. One who had mercy on him. Jesus said, go and do likewise. Jesus is teaching us that it is not a shared religion that makes us one. Jesus is teaching us that it is not a shared national identity that makes us one. It is a shared humanity that makes us one. A unified nation. We often talk about national unity. We need national unity. A unified nation that excludes others, that sees itself as superior, that operates from an us versus them mentality, breathe deep breath, is not a nation of unity. A religion that sees itself as having the right way and all others are wrong, that sees itself as superior and operates from an us versus them mentality, is not a religion of unity. It's not even a religion of Christianity. Over the last few years, We have seen a growing sense of Christian nationalism in our nation. And in my own opinion, it is one of the biggest threats to our democracy. Now, this is not new. Billy Sunday was an evangelist. He was a baseball player turned evangelist back he lived in like the late 19th century, early 20th century. He died in 1935, I believe. My grandfather's claim to fame his entire life was that when he was a high schooler, he had served as an usher at a Billy Sunday revival. He was Billy Graham before Billy Graham was Billy Graham. He had been a very famous baseball player, and then he, found Jesus, became a preacher, and he started filling those same stadiums. He would fill baseball stadiums, and he would preach to people. And as early as 1910, he said, because this is not new, what we've been experiencing is not new, it's just kind of had a new flowering. In 1910, he said, Christianity and patriotism are synonymous terms, and hell and traitors are synonymous. Now, if that rings at all true to you, let me invite you to consider the danger that may be inherent in that belief. The problem with it is that when it takes a toll, when the idea of nationalism, and if you're not familiar with that term, go look it up. You can go down a Google rabbit hole for hours and read about Indian theology and read about what Christian nationalists believe and what they want to have happen. And it leaves very little room for diversity, let me just say that. The problem with it, when it takes a toehold, is that then anyone who says there is something wrong with my country, it has flaws that needs fixing, it needs improving, it's making mistakes, it's not superior, it's not exceptional, it's just regular, and it's had some really great moments, and it's had some really horrible moments. Anyone who says that now is not just unpatriotic, they are a heretic. They become a blasphemer, a sinner, ruled by demonic forces. There becomes no room for the kind of healthy critique of national policy that keeps us strong. Nationalism, blind patriotism, ignores a significant chunk of the American experience. The Census Bureau reports that there are at least 350 languages spoken as the first language in the United States. I think that number's low, gotta be honest with you. I remember Judy Blackwelder many years ago telling me that at Glencliff High School alone there were something like 120 languages or something like that. Is that right, Jill? Great diversity, I know, in the metro school system. There are about 313 religions practiced in the United States. I really think that's low. I think it's more like, 600 million, like one for every person. We have immigrants from all 195 countries on the globe. We have countless cultures. Then add in the LGBTQ community. We have diversity out the wazoo. And for those of us who think that Nashville is getting really diverse, we don't even know diversity in Middle Tennessee. Take a trip to Los Angeles. Go to New York. Head down to Miami. We don't know diversity, as diverse as we have become. And our belief, our Jesus, calls us to be their neighbor, to help heal the experience that has wounded them, to offer unlimited help, to help bandage their wounds, to maybe even lead them towards a little patriotism, a little love, a little pride. There's currently a big debate going on. You may have heard about it. It's in politics. It's happening in the educational system about something called critical race theory. And basically, this is what critical race theory is in a nutshell. It's an admission that racism has damaged our nation, it has been systemic, and it still has impact on our world, and we need to bring it to light and be honest about the past and move on, right? After we've dealt with it honestly. But there's a lot of people pushing back on that, and let me just suggest to you that there's a whole lot of political marketing going on with that. Here's the thing. Unless we're honest, we'll never recognize those other experiences that people have had. We don't have to understand all of those experiences. Our cultural differences may be vast. We may not even speak the same language. We just have to meet trauma with mercy. We just have to meet damage with compassion. We have to meet fear with love. Not refusal to hear, not ignoring the experience. We have to be willing to help heal. Notice how the Samaritan never asked the man where he's from, what religion he is, doesn't need to know anything about him. All he needs to know is that he's in need. You have a need, and I have the ability to fill it. That's all I need to know. You're in pain, and I can ease that pain. You're hurting, and I can help. That's all I need to know. He knows immediately what to do. He sees a man in pain, he sees a man bleeding, he sees a man dying, and he knows immediately what to do. And I love that do part of it. That second song, the music today was perfect. Command my hands. Tell me what to do. And the answer was, help. Help. How can we be both patriotic and unity? Let me suggest that it is through helping. I am never more proud to be an American than when I see her people step up in times of great need. And Americans do that maybe like nobody else. That's a little bit of pride right there. Partly we do that like nobody else because we're a rich country and we can. It's not that we necessarily have bigger hearts. The average American has more money than the average Indian or the average Cambodian. And so we can, and we do. When I see people from all over the country converge on New York after 9/11, converge on Houston after Hurricane Harvey, converge on Joplin, Missouri after the tornado of 2011, converge on the East Coast after Superstorm Sandy. When I see that, I am like a flag-waving American. Go America. When they can't show up in person, Americans can be so generous with their wallets. After Hurricane Katrina, Americans donated $4 billion. And we don't just do that for our own natural disasters. Do y'all remember the big Indian Ocean tsunami? Ooh, I remember exactly where I was when I heard about that. It was so big and so traumatic. And so Americans sent $2 billion. $2 billion. Y'all know what a billion is? It is not 100 million. It is 1,000 million. Get a million and then do 1,000 of those and you've got a billion. That's a lot of simoleons. We did the same thing with the Haiti earthquake. We sent $2 billion to the Haiti earthquake. Way to go, America. But it's not just in those big ways, perhaps the most profound ways that we see help happening are those people who help out in their communities. Right? The United Way volunteers or the organizers of that school fundraiser or giving money or time or energy or goods to the Old Dog Sanctuary or Rest Stop Ministries or serving on the board of Unity of Music City or being a chaplain of Unity of Music City or running the PowerPoint every damn Sunday for 111 years. That is the way you show up and help and be a part of the solution. I've been involved in several marches. I love that. I love marching. It's like, we got a cause, let's go. I will march. I have been involved in pride marches out the wazoo. I've walked right by Reverend Fred Phelps and said, hey, I'm happy, sorry for you. I have marched in the Women's March, but the one that sticks with me, the one that really got to me was about 3 years ago when I went and marched in a march for immigrant rights. It was at a time when people were really, really, really concerned about the children at the border being separated from their parents and some of the things that were happening along there. And I went and marched for immigrant rights, and it stayed with me. And I think the reason it did was because I didn't have a dog in the hunt. It wasn't about me. I just went and showed up for my neighbor. I just went and showed up for somebody else. And if you want the opportunity to do that, Nashville Pride doesn't happen until September this year. You will never feel more loved than if you go hang out with a bunch of drag queens on Saturday. It will just love all over you. Ryan works for a nonprofit. If you want to know a way to help, I bet he's got a list. Right? Jill retired from Metro School Board. I bet Jill knows a whole bunch of schools that could use a helping hand. I want to end with a poem from one of my favorite poets, Rabindranath Tagore. You can just call him Tagore because nobody knows his first name. He's an Indian poet from about the same time as Billy Sunday. He lived about the same span of years. He wrote this poem in 1910. Where the mind is without fear and the head held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out of the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms toward perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father. Let my country awake. Happy 4th of July. Namaste.
Not even going to try to follow that. All right, so she made a big point of saying how Americans are helpful people, and we are. So let's think about that as we think about how we give to our spiritual community. And let's say the offertory blessing together.
I am open to receiving floods of financial abundance with ease, so that I may be able to give back even more to the world around me.
Because we live in a world of infinite abundance. Let's all stand as we are able and sing. I live in the midst of infinite abundance. I give freely and fearlessly to life. I live in the midst of infinite abundance, and life gives back to me. I live in the midst of infinite abundance. I
I give freely and fearlessly to life. I live in the midst of infinite abundance, and life gives back to me. And life gives back to me.
Please join us in saying the prayer of protection. The light of
God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. All is well, life is good. We are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. We are truly blessed.